Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Google Partners Academy on Air. I am super excited to be joining you guys to close out this three-part series. We're talking about creative excellence. So if you missed the last 2 weeks live streams, be sure to go back and watch those. I'm going to give you a bit of a recap in this live stream, but go back and watch all of the great stuff that was covered there. So I'm going to start by telling you a little bit about myself. My name is Jessie Hochalter. I am on the Partner Enablement team here at Google as Global Programs Lead. So I'm really excited to be speaking to you guys, our partners. I have a lot of fun training you guys and speaking to your end clients, making sure that you have everything you need to make sure they have everything they need to thrive. In my previous roles, I was always in newspaper on the digital side, everything from digital ad ops management to multimedia advertising directing. So again, really excited to get started. Let's start with a fun fact. My favorite micro animal is the tardigrade. If you guys have not heard of the tardigrade, I highly recommend you look it up. It's also known as the water bear, and it is the most hardy animal that's out there. It can survive extreme temperatures and extreme situations like dehydration. Look it up, and they're also very cute. Okay, moving on. So why are we talking about this? Why are we talking about creative excellence? Well, really, it has to do with the fact that there are 3.5 billion searches happening on Google every single day. So this is, the way that we're going to get your end consumers to connect with, the business owners, to make those moments count and to make sure that they're getting exactly what they need. So the way we're going to do this is by having a really compelling story. There's plenty of searches out there. There's plenty of moments that we can take advantage of, but let's have a really compelling story. So to do this, we're going to use this three-part framework that we have started talking about a couple weeks ago. So just to give you guys a recap, this is the create, complement, capture narrative. So create. First thing you need to do is create compelling ads that meet your business goals. Okay, so this means testing ads. This means running multiple ads per ad group, which we'll talk about in a minute here just to recap. And it means making that message really, really compelling to whoever that end consumer is. But you don't want to stop there. No, there are 2 more C's to go. You want to also complement those ads. So you create these great ads, then you complement them with extensions to enhance your message. So making sure that you're taking advantage of all of the other bells and whistles that come along in AdWords to make sure that you are having the most compelling message possible. But wait, there's more. Capture. So we have a great ad, we've complemented it with extensions, but we want to make sure we capture that attention when it actually matters. So it's one thing to have a really, really awesome ad, but if we're not there when people are actually searching for it, not going to do a lot of good, right? So create, complement, capture. Before we get into the capture piece, which is really around impression share, I want to just recap what we talked about in the last couple weeks. Okay, so create. Now, the 2 tenets that you want to remember for create is to adopt 3 ads per ad group. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. But then also optimizing your ad rotation settings based on your campaign goals. And we're going to talk about that too. These are kind of, once you've created those ads that have the basics there, the great calls to action, they have a compelling message, we want to make sure that we adopt these things. So 3 ad groups and optimizing the ad rotation. I'm not going to get really deep into what makes a great ad because we have a ton of other material on that. I highly recommend you go back and watch this live stream if you haven't seen it already. But I just want to recap a couple of the key points here. So what is the main thing you want to do? The main thing you want to do is rethink your ad creative to find the message that resonates best. Now, as you guys know, fairly recently we rolled out expanded text ads, which were it's a great opportunity for you to go in and actually recreate those ads. So we don't want to just tack on the additional text because we know that we have about 50% more ad copy that we can use. We don't want to just tack on text. We actually want to go back in and rethink those messages. So think about it this way. If you can create 3 really compelling ads that you think are going to be really answering those questions for a particular ad group, and just to kind of go back to the basics, we want to make sure that our ad groups are really tightly themed in terms of what keywords we're using so that we're really, really answering that question. So we don't want to have an ad group that has 100 keywords because then those ads that are within that ad group are not going to be as relevant. So having those tight ad groups and then having at least 3 different ads, because you can say, you know what, this ad is really answering this specific question. This one might be worded a little bit differently and also answering that question. And this one might have, you know, some other deal that we couldn't include in the other 2. So what happens is when you have these 3, then Google will actually optimize for you and serve the ad that's performing the best. And this has to do with how you're rotating your ads, which I'll talk about in a second. So just a key stat here that is really, really crucial that you can see, that when you rotate your ads to optimize for clicks or conversions, which is the rotation piece that we're talking about, the ad groups that have 3 or more high quality ads can receive up to 15% more clicks or conversions compared to those with only 1 or 2. Why is this? Well, I guess it makes sense. If Google's going to go in there and optimize based on what's performing best, the more it has to look at, the better chance you're going to have a really high performing ad, right? So rethink those ad creatives, make sure that they're compelling. One good test that I like to do is take a look at your client's ads and say to yourself, if I were looking for a podiatrist, I'm just telling you, I'm not looking for a podiatrist. But if I were to be, would this be compelling to me? Is this going to get rid of my outrageous athlete's foot, right? I don't have that, but if I did, okay? Now, the next thing we want to do is put your best ad forward for your business goals. So this is where we talked about creating those 3 or more different ads for rotation, but we want to make sure we're rotating based on optimizing for clicks or conversions. If you have conversion tracking set up and you are already, looking at those conversions, optimize your ads for conversions, because what this is going to do, it makes sense. Use Google's great, AI brain to show the ads that are going to convert the best. And Google's going to determine, based on what people are clicking on and based on the conversions that are happening, which ads to show. If you don't have conversion tracking, don't worry, you can always optimize for clicks, but this is going to be much, much better than rotating your ads evenly. Because if you rotate your ads evenly, which if you go into AdWords is going to be kind of the default setting of how things are done, if you do this, then what's going to happen is your ads are going to serve A, B, and C. Those good, better, best ads are going to serve evenly. So you're going to be serving a decent ad 33.333 forever % of the time, when you could be serving the best ad most of the time. And this is going to obviously get you more clicks, get you more conversions. So optimize for clicks, optimize for conversions. And what we tend to see is when we do optimize for clicks, we see that click-through rate uplift is about 5%. So then when we optimize for conversions, we also see a similar uplift in conversions of about 5%. This is based on Google internal data. So again, just to recap, make sure you are having at least 3 ads per ad group and you're optimizing based on clicks or conversions. But that's not enough, right? Remember our second C, complement. So we created great ads. Now we want to complement them with extensions. So leverage the extensions that are universally relevant for marketers, and then make sure to add on at least 1 extension that's relevant for your business. Okay, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this because I think this is incredibly important. But complement your ads to enhance your message. Why are you going to do this? Well, when you have more extensions and you can show up to 4, you have improved visibility. Your ad's bigger, right? It's bigger, so you can see it, you get more clicks. You can better qualify your customers because ad extensions are going to help direct people to either different parts of your website, or maybe direct people who want to click on, find out where you're located, or direct people to your phone. You're going to be able to better qualify your customers and better serve them. These ads are also more appealing because you're giving users more information. And your ad is going to be really cost effective because you're going to be getting more clicks. So let's think about this, right? If your ad is better qualified, its visibility is improved, your click-through rate's going to increase. And we all know that click-through rate is the largest component of what? Quality score, I heard it. Yes, thank you, Nancy. I don't know. If there's a Nancy out there, you're gonna be really freaked out. But yes, so quality score is the biggest, click-through rate is the biggest component in quality score, that expected click-through rate. So when the quality score goes up, our bid is actually going to decrease for that particular spot in the auction. So having those more appealing ads is actually going to make this all a little bit cheaper for you. Okay, so we also want to share with you that on average, when we include a new ad extension or implement a new ad extension from what was there before, we see about a 10 to 15% click-through rate uplift. Okay, so 10 to 15% click-through rate uplift from implementing a new ad extension. So really, really helps. And as you can see in this graphic here, an ad without versus an ad with an extension, it makes a pretty big difference in the real estate that you have, and also gives that really relevant information. So just to kind of recap the section before we move to the final piece, best practices: keep content fresh, relevant, and high quality, obviously, right? So we want to make sure that it's extremely relevant. We're showing any offers that are happening. We want to make sure that if if it's spring, we're not having, we don't have a winter sale that's left over, right? We want to make sure that we're extremely relevant and we have high quality ads, and that's what we're going to do, based on that rotation business and having 3 or more ads per ad group. Now, one thing to be careful of is watch out for overlap or repetition. So if you have something like site links or call out extensions enabled, and it's saying something about your business or about what you offer, and then you're repeating that in the headline or the different parts of the ad other than those particular extensions, this can be a bad thing. This isn't a good user experience. It can be a little bit confusing, and you're not making the most of your space. And then cover the 3 key extensions and maximize co-trigger. Okay, so what are the key 3 extensions? They are site links. Okay, so we know site links are incredibly important. They are also call-out extensions, and they are structured snippets. Okay, yes, those all from memory. These are the 3 key extensions that are not going to be those automated ones like we know location and phone number. Those are really important. But those are the 3 key that you need to make sure that you have enabled, and you're making sure that they show up. And then, of course, go above and beyond. Please enable any extensions that make sense for your business. Google's going to go through and show the ones that make the most sense, so you don't have to worry about, oh, I don't want to enable this one because I always want this one to show up. Google's going to go through and say, these actually make sense to, as we see there, co-trigger. These make sense to show up at the same time. This is what's going to get us the best return, the best clicks, the best conversions. So go ahead and enable all extensions that make sense for your business. Okay, now I know that was a pretty long recap, but this section is pretty straightforward. So we're going to talk through the capture piece. We created a great ad, we complemented it with ad extensions. Now let's capture all of that traffic, right? So again, we can create all this great stuff, but if we're not actually there for the people that are demanding what we have to offer, what's the point? Okay, so let's talk about this. Now, what we want to do is capture attention by ensuring that our ads are present in those moments that matter. What does this mean? This means making sure that your ads are seen when consumers are looking for your product or service. Pretty straightforward, right? So this concept of impression share is not something that's new, but it is something that I find is very underutilized by sales and account management teams. So let's talk a little bit about this, and then I'm going to throw in some of my color about how I like to talk about impression share. So the whole basis of impression share is that we are all about profit-driven marketing, right? So we, especially with digital advertising, the fact that we can measure what's actually working and the fact that we can see all of these really cool data points makes it that we, can actually go in and look at things like impression share and understand the value of increasing budget in order to increase that profit. So what is impression share? Impression share is just the percentage of impressions that your ad receives compared to the impressions that are actually out there. So let's say, for example, I don't know why I'm thinking about podiatry again. Let's take a different example just so I don't weird you guys out. Let's say that let's say dentist. I guess I'm stuck on the medical field, but let's say I'm a dentist and I'm interested in people who are within a 15-mile radius of my office. And I, really want to hammer on the like veneers, the really cosmetic stuff. So within that 15-mile radius, I'm bidding on these keywords related to veneers, implants, anything having to do with cosmetic dentistry. Now, if my impression share is 50%, this means that I'm only showing up for 50% of those impressions, 50% of those searchers within my 15-mile radius who are searching for those specific cosmetic keywords that I'm interested in. Okay, this is a very, very powerful metric. So that's all impression share is. So let's dig a little bit deeper. And what we can do, let's say I'm that same dentist, and I also want to show up for family dentistry, but it's not as important. What I can do is I can actually break this up by campaign and say, you know what, my impression share for general dentistry is 70%, my impression share for cosmetic dentistry is 50%, and I can actually do this by campaign. So this is really cool because when your budget's limited, and if you can't, have your impression share closer to that 80, 90, 100% overall, you can actually go in and say, well, this area is a little bit more important to me. This area is converting better. Let's add some extra budget to this area in particular, right? So impression share is broken down into two pieces, the lost impression share. There's impression share lost due to budget and impression share lost due to rank, okay? These things are different, but they're very, very related. So the impression share number that you have, I recommend you just stick with that impression share number, which would be, let's say my impression share is, 50%. So that number is going to say that I'm only showing up 50% of the time. So for that other 50%, it's like me putting up a close sign on my business during business hours. People are trying to get in, then they see another dentist next door, and they're like, you know what, it's cool, that guy's open. So this is why that impression share metric is so important. The impression share lost due to budget and due to rank is the kind of yin of that yang, right? It's the opposite side of that. So if I have 50% impression share, then my impression share lost due to rank and due to budget is going to add up to 50%. Now, I'm not going to get too deep into what this means, but essentially budget, it means that your budget's not high enough. Rank, it could have to do with things like quality score. So maybe you don't have your ads not high enough quality to actually show up. But oftentimes it's also related to budget because you may not be bidding high enough to actually show up because it's impression share loss due to rank. Okay, so this is all very much budget related. So if you do get some incremental budget, if they're happy with where they're at in terms of conversions, then asking for that incremental budget to show up more often is an absolute no-brainer. Okay, so again, impression share, impressions divided by the total eligible impressions. This doesn't mean all of the impressions in the universe. It just means those impressions that you actually care about, right? Told you within that 15-mile radius, those keywords that I'm interested in, that's what total eligible impressions mean. One last thing I want to mention about impression share is couple things. One is with expanded text ads, you may see that your campaigns are getting a bit more click happening there, clickery. I don't know, maybe that's a word, but there's a lot more clicks happening. And what this can do is this can actually make your impression share. It can actually create the need for more budget. So this is an opportunity to look at impression share. Also, if you're making any changes to the campaign that are improving the campaign, what this is going to do is it's going to drive up that click-through rate, which means that you're getting clicks more often, you're burning through your budget a little bit faster, so you might need more a budget to fulfill this impression share than before. Okay, so ensure your presence there by looking at these things, keep a close eye on impression share, and have lots of discussions about this with your end advertisers because it is a great metric to look at. Okay, so we're going to adopt 3 ad groups, 3 ads per ad group, optimize your ad rotations for clicks or conversions, complement those ads with ad extensions, right? So leverage those extensions that are universally relevant. We want to make sure we have call out, structured snippets, site links, but then also make sure that that any other extensions that are relevant to your business are also enabled. And then of course, capture. So make sure your impression share is at a good spot, 70, 80, 90%, right? 100% sometimes we can't get to if there's a lot of competition, or there might be some issues with some rank stuff. But if we get close to that number, we're in a good spot because we want to capture all of that available demand. Okay, so with that, I'm going to see if there are any questions. This was a bit of a whirlwind of a live stream for you guys. At least it was for me. So let's see. Let's wait for this to populate really quickly. Okay. So here is a question. This is kind of a sales-related question. This is a really good one. How do I have the impression share conversation with my client without them thinking that I didn't propose the right budget in the first place? Okay, this is a really good question, and I know this is a concern. I don't want to go back and, I just started this campaign, 4 months ago, and now I'm going to go back and say, hey, I didn't propose the right budget to you. We actually need more budget. Now, the way that I like to look at this is every single business, if you just first of all, if you can set the expectation in the beginning that, hey, this is kind of the budget I think we should start with. I don't want it to be so low that you're not going to see results, but I also don't want it to be so high that you're getting diminishing return. So I'm going to put it, this is just kind of the stake in the sand, just kind of the sweet spot where I'm going to put this, and we can move around. So this is kind of what I'm going to say for the budget, but we might need to adjust based on the data. Now, if you didn't do that in the first place, that's okay. You can still go back and say, look, we did the best job that we could by getting you that budget estimation, but the truth is every single industry, every single geography, every single business is unique. You are a beautiful snowflake baby child, and you're going to be different than every other business we've ever had. So as we've been removing different keywords that aren't relevant to your business specifically and adding the ones that are, we've had to sort of, the budget has had to shift around. So after we've had this time to optimize, this is where we're at. So again, you don't have to increase the budget. We can leave the impression share as is, but just know that you are missing out on that key audience that you really have expressed interest in getting in front of. Okay. This is a good one, which I did not mention, which is really important. So thank you for asking. Where do I see impression share? Where do you actually find this metric? So impression share is going to be in AdWords. And this is not just going to be, just on the actual campaign level. You can actually break down, like I mentioned, and see what the impression share is for different, more granular metrics within the campaign. So this is going to be in AdWords. This is important because I love, if you guys know me at all, if you've seen any of my trainings, I love Google Analytics, but this is one thing that Google Analytics cannot show you is that impression share. So you're going to need to get that in AdWords. Okay, this question I'm going to attempt to answer. I'm hoping that I'm understanding the question. When speaking of clicks, are these going to always be unique clicks? Now, I think it depends on the context, and it depends what you mean by unique clicks. So what I would say here is often, so if we're talking about like I'm clicking on an ad over and over again, we know that Google AdWords is going to take out those fraudulent clicks, right? So they're not going to charge our advertiser for that. So when we do talk about like click-through rate and how many clicks you get, those are going to be those unique clicks. That said, we could have the same person click, and then, do some stuff on maybe like check it out, leave, and then maybe they do the search again, come back and click again. So those are not, they're still unique clicks, but they could be the same person. So I hope that makes a little bit of sense. Okay, I'm going to read this one out loud, which is always, this is always a bold move because I'm going to read it and try to interpret it as I'm doing it. So hopefully I know the answer. If I lost about 30% of impressions for a keyword, but my bid for it is big enough to show in the first search page, what is the reason for this 30% lost impressions? Okay, this is a good question. It depends. So I know you love that answer. It depends. But if you lose 30% impressions for keywords, but the bid is high enough, this means what I would do is I'd look at two things. I'd look at what is your impression share loss due to rank, and what is your impression share loss due to budget. Because if you are bidding high enough to be on the first page, then this could mean that it's not a rank issue, but it could be a rank issue if your quality score is not high enough. Okay, so you can have a really high bid that's getting you on the first page, but if your quality score is not high enough, you still might not be showing on the first page. Okay, so that's one thing that could happen. Your bid's high enough, but your quality score is not quite there, so you're not showing on the first page. This is lost impression share due to rank. Otherwise, your bid could be high enough, but your overall budget might not be high enough, and this could mean you're losing impression share due to budget. So you're going to want to check your quality score and check your overall budget to see what's going on there. But that's a really, really great question. What is my opinion on running exact phrase and broad match modified of the same keyword? I'm a fan of this. I'm a fan of testing. So when you actually start these campaigns, I think it's a good idea. I like to think about it as, like a chunk of marble, and you're kind of carving out your David, your beautiful sculpture, right? And so what you want to do is you want to start with some keywords really specific, the ones you know that are going to convert based on, past data, or based on, what the keyword planner is telling you, or just past information. So start with those being a lot more specific, like the exact match, those really highly converting keywords. And then if you're seeing, things going really well there, that's when you actually take those and expand and experiment. On the other side of that, in order to capture more relevant audience that you might not be thinking of, you can use some of these broad match modified, some of these phrase match keywords, and see what's happening there, and then actually take a look at your search terms reports and see which are the keywords that people are actually searching in that are connected to those broad match modified phrase keywords, phrase match, and then bid on those, and you can actually take those down to the exact match level if you're seeing a lot of activity coming from those. So I'm a fan of doing that in terms of that kind of a testing sort of a thing. That said, every campaign is going to be different. Everyone has different strategies, and there really isn't a right or wrong answer there. Okay. That is, let's see, it looks like we're getting to the half of the hour. I'm going to wrap that up. If there's anything that we didn't answer, it looks like we answered the majority of these, but if there's anything we didn't answer, we will get back to you. But we're going to wrap it up for this week. So thank you so much for watching our 3-part series on creative excellence. So create, complement, capture away, you guys, and I will be seeing you very soon. Have a fantastic rest of your week and weekend.